Hi there, it's Kate. Welcome back to my channel. It is nap time in my house, so I thought I would try to film a quick Friday reads video. You can see there's no sheets on my bed or anything. It's laundry day. I'm hoping that nap time lasts through this whole thing that I'm doing, but we'll see. You just never know. Also, it is now deep fall, almost winter in the Pacific Northwest of the US, where I live basically in a forest, so there is no natural light. And I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way that it's going to be for the next 9 months. There's just no light here. It's beautiful, there's lots of trees, but no light. So I finished, moving on to the books, I finished 2 books this week, and I read on a few more, so let's just get started on that. The first book that I finished was Girl Waits with Gun. This is historical fiction based on actual events about a female crime fighter around the turn of the 20th century. And I started reading this book because my husband brought home what I thought was the second book in the series from work for me to read. And it turns out that the book that I own is actually the 4th book in the series, which significantly changes things. This book was a solid maybe for me as far as enjoyment. It was interesting. It was really interesting that it was based on a real person, and I really enjoyed at the end of the book, there was an appendix that talked about which parts of the book were, literally pulled directly from headlines and which parts were more fictionalized. And I enjoyed that part. The very end of the book, the main character had some interesting character development that I enjoyed, but it took a lot of the book to get to the point where she was developing, and the other characters in the book didn't develop at all. I felt like we saw more character development in the in the villains in the story than in the protagonists, and that was difficult for me. So I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to continue in this series, just because this one was a slog for me. But I'm hoping that because this one got better towards the end, there was forward momentum. Perhaps there will be forward momentum in the other books as well. I don't know. We'll see. And then I stuck with the historical fiction theme, and I picked up Times Convert by Deborah Harkness. So she was the author of the All Souls trilogy, which is about a vampire and a witch who fall in love. And that is my, I don't want to say guilty pleasure because I'm not really guilty about it, but that kind of brain candy where you just, you don't want to think about it at all. That's my jam. So I picked up this one, and I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to like it as much as I liked the first 3 books in the series. And I was right. The first 2 books I think I have read multiple times. In the 3rd book I've definitely only read once, and I would need to reread it in order to fully get what was going on in this book, because I don't remember enough of that book to know where we were when we picked up in this one. And I feel like Harkness in this book, you can tell where her roots as a historian are, and it is not in the early Republic time period. It was good. It was like any other historical fiction book that I have ever read. Whereas the first books in this series, when they go back to, is it Elizabethan England? It was a while ago. The history is palpable. The setting and the environment is something that is much more vivid and real. Whereas this was just, like I said, like any other historical fiction book that I've ever read about the American Revolution or the French Revolution. So it was okay. The perspective was interesting. I didn't feel, again, like there was much forward momentum for many of the characters. This felt like a filler book in the series. So unlike the Girl Waits with Gun, I will for certain pick up the next book in this series, just because I have a feeling that the weirdness with this one had to do with where it falls in this series. and that it felt like it was building up to more. Yeah, so perhaps more editing would have been good. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I didn't love, but I mean, I devoured it. I read it in like 2 days, and it's a chunky book. So I recommend this series. This particular book is okay. Those are the only books that I finished. I continued reading on Looking for Lorraine, which I'm still loving. It's taking forever. This is not a big book. This is like 200 pages. You can see that I've dog-eared so many pages because it's just amazing. But I'm taking my time because I'm enjoying what I'm reading. And similarly, I started Fruit of the Drunken Tree by Ingrid Rojas Contreras, which is a story about Colombia in the early 90s. And I'm not very far. I'm like maybe just started the second chapter, so I can't tell you much about this book, but I am enjoying it. It's just not a book that I am able to read like around my children because it requires a little bit more concentration. So that's why I haven't gotten so far in it as like this book, which I could read while my children were screaming around me because it didn't matter. Yeah, so I'm hopefully going to continue to read those 2 books in the week to come. What have you been reading this week? I hope that it is nice and fall and cozy and good reading weather where you are. If you've read any of these books or want to chat about them below, let me know, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.